start the Finance Committee at 7:25. In attendance are council committee members Scarl, Lambert, Mari, Councilwoman Carr, Councilwoman Gilchrist, Councilman Madden, Councilman Shimsky, Law Director, Finance Director, HR Director, Recreation Director, Chief of Staff, and guests. Two items tonight are ordinance 2026-14, R6 Sears Development TIF. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a development agreement with R6 Motors, Inc. for the purpose of encouraging economic development consistent with the mall area mixed use, MAU, parents, overlay district. Chief Byrne will be speaking on behalf of that. Yourself or?
No, Russ is here to speak on that this evening.
He's the, Mr. Chairman, the attorney that's been hired by the city to represent the city in negotiating and drafting these type of economic development proposals. And if we could allow Mr. Baltus to kind of give you an overview of how we got to where we are and where we're going.
Thank you.
Good evening. Happy to talk a little bit about the development agreement and also maybe kind of give a higher overview of kind of how the project would move forward if council and the city, adopts the ordinance and moves forward. So as you described, we're talking about the Sears property at the Great Northern Mall. The proposal here is there's a development agreement that would have to do with that site being demoed and then a new shopping or grocery supercenter store being developed there in its place. So there's a couple of things that this development agreement does. It says that the city will cooperate with the developer. It says that they will provide a $600,000 grant to cover demo costs for that. That would be paid after a certificate of occupancy is granted for the supercenter. And that the city would also enter into what's called an urban redevelopment TIF, which is pursuant to 570941. That's the revised code section. This is a bit of a different type of TIF than you might be used to. This is a TIF where the resources can be used to go back in to support the development of the project. It's a common tool in Ohio, but it requires as a condition that the city be in the chain of title. So backing up for a second, what would happen if the council wanted to go through this process is there's really like 4 steps. The first step would be this step that you're at today. You would consider the development agreement. Think of the development agreement a little bit like the roadmap. It says that the Sears will be demoed. The city would give that $600,000 I talked about, and then we would work with the developer to enter into a TIF. Now, how that would work, you might recall it's already in a 40B TIF. It's a different type of TIF. So not to bore you with all the nuance, but just so you know how it would work, we would have to come back to council, amend the existing TIF to take this parcel out of the existing TIF. The city would need to be in the chain of title. One of the things that we would do with that would also require council approval. The developer would have to indemnify the city. What that means is that any risk, they would have to cover the costs, things like that. We would get into the chain of title. That's for the purpose of the 41 TIF. And then the city would enter into the adopt the 41 TIF. And then the agreement would be that any revenue less any expenses that the city incurs would go back to the developer for the purposes of building and supporting the development of the grocery center.
Can you say that part again? Say that part again.
The revenue from the TIF.
Okay.
So the way the TIF would work is that the revenue that would come in, and this would still need to be negotiated. Some of that would go to the school district for sure, if not all of what the school district would receive, because it's property tax dollars, right? The remaining amount would go back to the developer to cover construction costs. They have to be hard costs, so it would have to be certified. But before they would get any money, if the city incurred any costs that year for whatever reason, up to a certain amount, the city would get reimbursed first. That's how the deal is currently structured. Did that get what you wanted? Sorry.
Mr.
Excuse me, I have one question.
Sure.
The change of title or whatever, how long would we have to own that?
Usually you'd be entitled for about 3 days. You have to acquire it while engaged in urban redevelopment. That's what the revised code provides. So usually we would acquire it. It doesn't have to be 3 days. It could be a week or more, but usually it's about a 3-day process.
At what cost?
You would, no cost. The city would get the money for free. Yep. And then you would, $1, $10, yeah, sorry. And then transfer it right back. So we would only be in title for a short period of time. And the only purpose of that is it's required under the statute to do this type of TIF. And the time at which we do that is what sets the base value for the TIF. So that is important.
Councilman, did you have a question? I'm good with that now.
I did,
Go
Mr. Chair,
ahead.
thanks. So if I understood that right, because the school's gonna get their money, then the revenue, any incurred costs that we had as part of what?
The idea would be if you have auditing costs associated with the
Okay,
TIF,
so
you have legal
administrative-
issues,
administrative costs, okay.
exactly.
Actual administrative costs.
Exactly.
So we're
yeah.
basically second tranche of revenue after schools, and then the developer is after that.
Correct. Schools would be first,
Okay.
then the city for those.
And is
then-
that capped? Is that revenue capped to it for the developer?
The way
Is
it would,
only for their costs of development or what?
yes, it's capped in 2 ways.
Okay.
One, it's capped in any expenses have to be documented and they have to be like capital construction
Capital
costs of
costs,
the
okay.
building of the building. The additional cap is that it would just be to the extent these TIF funds are available. So what'll happen is the value of the property will go up, right? Because we're gonna have something new there that's worth more. They'll be paying more in taxes. That additional tax increase, those are the TIF payments. They come over, the schools take their chunk, 60-some% of it. Then you've got 30-some% left. Then that's what, after we take out any expenses we have actually incurred, that's what then would go to the developer. So depending on the valuation of the building, that would depend how much they get. But in no case are they allowed to get more than what legally eligible reimbursement, which are the construction costs.
And do we still get our portion of the property tax? Or
We
is-
would not. We would not, and the county would not.
Yeah, the county wouldn't, we wouldn't either.
No. But I think that part of what their idea is that the cap that in the agreement, you might notice that portion is still blank, the cap of how much we can be reimbursed for. The idea is to tie that number to, I think it's about 8% is what the city would receive in property taxes, to tie it to that, so that any expenses we would have up to that amount were held harmless and we would get to take those. I don't see you having those kind of expenses, to be candid. To be candid, something would have to go wrong. If you're spending that much on lawyers and accountants, something didn't go well, just to be candid. But it's there if you need it.
Are we, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
do we know if we're getting any, what do we get on property tax now with the Sears being there?
I don't know that.
I don't have that number. I mean, so I guess for clarification purpose, when you're saying what we don't get property tax, that includes the base that we're currently getting?
You
Or
do
we're
get the
talking
base.
Just the incremental
Just
part
the
that we
increment.
don't-
Great point.
So we don't lose.
Okay,
I
that's
should
what
have,
was asking.
I'm so sorry. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about the increment.
We're getting some
No.
kind of tax.
No, I apologize, I misspoke.
Okay.
I was talking about the increment,
Incremental
the
revenue.
base value, everybody, including the county,
Okay,
everybody continues to get that.
okay. So it's just
Yeah,
locked
thank
in
you.
though, but it's locked in at the time of development for what we would get for property tax purposes.
The base value is set at the time the city acquires the property while engaged in urban
And
redevelopment.
that's ad infinitum that we just get the base value?
Yes, the TIF would have no impact on the base value, that's forever, and then when the TIF wears off, then it's everything, goes to the tax duplicate.
But we're locked in at whatever the property values are in 2026 for
I
the.
guess, Mr. Chair, is a question, Mr. Lippert, are you saying that the base value, the floor, does that remain, the question, so does
Yeah.
that remain flat or does it also increase?
The base value does not change. The base value is set by law. The increment will change as the county, you know, I should clarify, in the off case that the county appraises it for less than what the base value was, that could result in a drop in property tax revenue. That's
We'll have
unlikely.
bigger problems. if
That's true, that's a bigger problem, but I just want to
We
be
have a lot of
clear
problems if
Yeah.
that.
that if, yeah, it doesn't, it locks in the base for the purposes of the TIF, but it doesn't guarantee that if the county were to appraise it even lower, then it would go lower.
Mr. Chair, can you-
One more thing I need. How long's the TIF for?
30 years.
That's what I was gonna ask. Okay, that, thank
30
you.
years, yep.
There we go. Okay, so it's locked
Something
in
I
for
should have
30
probably shared
years.
in the beginning.
30
so.
years at that base. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what, I was trying to get to the number here. Okay, so.
30 years, 100%.
Okay.
Schools being receiving their funding. And that also includes any joint vocational school districts. That's operational law.
Service payments that they have to make every twice a year, 6 months or whatever, that goes into the TIF, those payments?
Correct. The money would go to the county first. Normally, the way the county would do it, make the payments to the school district. The rest of the money would come to the city into the TIF fund, and then pursuant to agreements, once adequate cost certificates are submitted, we took out any costs that we have, then the payment would be made to the developer.
And Director Radif, once that money's in the TIF, we're eligible to do what with?
So, clerk, aren't we paying the tip forward to the developers, right?
That's correct.
So it won't be ours, right?
That's correct. The money would go back to reimburse the developer for eligible costs.
Yeah. Which,
For the whole 30 years?
Correct.
Mr. Chair, one follow-up. Mr. Chair, one follow-up on that. Is the TIF transferable, or if, like, the applicant would no longer have a operational facility there, does that TIF, what happens?
If the TIF runs with the land, the
Okay,
obligation to
okay.
make the service payment. So if it's sold to somebody new, they have that obligation to make those payments. The right, once the money comes to the TIF fund, the right for reimbursement would rest with the person who incurred the eligible costs. So that would be the person who would be receiving the reimbursement, the person who can show that they spent the money to develop the project.
So they would keep getting it even though they don't own the
We
property?
keep getting it. The city would, the TIF fund would keep getting the TIF money from the subsequent owner, but we would have no obligation to reimburse the subsequent owner because they're not the developer that
That's
expended
what
the
I was
money.
trying to clarify.
Right,
Okay,
right.
okay, so it's not
I'm
transferable.
sorry to jump in, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
No, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
it's
We're
not
just trying to
transferable
clarify
essentially then.
that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, can layman terms maybe for all of us to understand,
Mhm.
why is this a good thing for the city?
Sure, happy to
I
get
mean, we're not attorneys, I'm not definitely, and I just need to know the simplest way why we need to do this. Our Six Motors is, been around, very well-established businessman.
Mhm.
Not sure why this is good for us to do that, other than we want to bring that property, to do something with it.
Absolutely. It's a great question. And I'll kind of give you the general background first on like why these programs exist and then how it applies here. The idea is if you're a developer and you want to build a new grocery store, supercenter, or an office building, anything, it is almost always going to be cheaper to go to green fields that don't have old buildings on them, that are clean, that have no issues. And so you build, you get your money, you invest there, then you have a certain rate of return, and that's where you go. The reason these tools are created are to incentivize developers to go to sites that aren't as ideal, to be candid. Ideal, sites that have an old Sears on them, for example. So what that does is it's a tool that communities use all around Ohio to incentivize developers to go to projects and then also to do projects in the way that they want them to do them, and to create job creation. A lot of times where you see these things used, they do tend to be sites that have sat for a while and the market on its own hasn't resulted in something happening. Through no fault of anyone, it's just sometimes these things are hard deals to put together. So usually developers will ask for everything. They always do. I'm not talking about R6 directly. I'm just saying developers in general, they always ask for a lot. So what these tools are meant to do is to try to take sites that would otherwise be more expensive to develop and to make them more competitive with other options that developers have to try to make sure that those sites are brought back into economic use and benefit to the community. Taking a step back, like a lot of times what communities will do are CRAs, where they just abate the tax. So somebody gets it, they don't have to pay any tax. Here, they're always paying the same amount. It's just it goes through this process, and then we have control over how it's used for the project. Did that help?
Yes, yeah, definitely better than a CRA, I get that. In the agreement, I read that this payment was up to $600,000, I know that had an auto place on it, there's gonna be some remediation and things like that. If it goes over 600,000, who's that on?
That's for the demo, and that is on the developer. The city's obligation to assist with the demo is capped at the 600,000.
Cause I'm sure it's gonna be more than 600.
I think that is the expectation, is that it'll be higher. So that's, the idea is the city's not gonna support the entire demo costs, it's just supporting a portion of it.
I agree with that. Is there anything from committee? Mr.
Is there, what position does this put the city in by establishing this TIF for this property within the mall area for any other redevelopment within the mall area? Is this setting like a precedent of what other developers would expect to get? Or is there a lot of variability in these as sites develop and redevelop? Obviously, they become more attractive, and so like, I just wanna know, are we gonna keep coming back with there's 30-year TIFs for everybody who wants to develop at the mall, or does these usually change over time from your experience?
Great question. In my experience, I sometimes jokingly refer to myself as like a mall undertaker, because so many malls, unfortunately, are just failing all around Ohio and the country. And so I would say that every deal that I've worked on with a mall redevelopment that is a significant like demo involved, brand new construction, has involved some sort of TIF or CRA or some sort of incentive. Now I have to disclose that might be self-selecting because I am a TIF lawyer, so of course ones I work on are using a TIF, right? But I will say that most redevelopments like that do have that type of incentive, and I would say most developers that are talking about doing a redevelopment of an old mall are going to bring up TIF. I would say that any TIF going forward has to be approved by council. This one doesn't approve any other TIFs, it would have to come back to council. To your point, what you hope for, no guarantee, what you hope for is by incentivizing one parcel, getting it redeveloped, making it more desirable, kind of raising the level of the area by the traffic counts, you make it more desirable. And the hope, no guarantee, but the hope is that future developers, maybe you don't need to incentivize as much because you've already got better traffic count and things are more developed. That may or may not be the case. Every deal's different. It'll depend on the demo necessary and the development costs and what type of project it is. I don't feel like that was a great answer, but that's the most honest.
No, it does. I mean, I just think, like, my personal perspective as a council person, that, like, I'm not gonna keep approving 30-year TIFs every time somebody wants to redevelop. Like, I would think there's gonna be a TIF, but I would think that maybe the time period, duration, like, you know, eventually, you know, what we're looking at is, you know, this is a 55-year mall, something like that, 55-year-old property. So, I mean, it's pretty far down the line, but like most buildings or stores, I mean, I can't think how many grocery stores we have that are over 30 years. I think Giant Eagle's coming close. It's coming close, but right, or Mark's. Mark's is probably the oldest. So, you know, it's basically like we're gonna TIF you for your life cycle, and then you're gonna, I'm just worried, like, is where we gonna have this domino effect in 30 years? It's like we gave you a 30-year TIF, and this guy leaves, and then next year the next person leaves. So, I mean, I think we wanna be smart about that. And
If Mr. Limpert's
Yeah.
good with that?
yeah, good, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anybody from council have anything?
Is
Go ahead. Mr.
is this whole acquisition TIF very similar to the one in Middlebrook Heights? Are you aware? They had a Sears, they got a Meyer. We have a Sears, we're getting a Meyer.
I worked on that. This is a bit different. The one with the Myers is it's a bit different. The one where the old Burlington coat factory was is the same. That one is more like this one. The one with the Burlington is a 41 TIF. The city is in the chain of title, just like I'm discussing here, and it is one where a large portion is going back to the developer.
Do you
Go ahead.
happen to know what the demo cost was of the Sears? And not, you can't communicate it to us a different way.
You know, I do not recall. I mean, it would be a public record. do not hold me to this. If I recall, and I could be way off, because it was years ago, I think it was over $1 million, but I could be wrong.
There's no way, yeah, you're right, it's gonna be expensive.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I can jump in on that.
Sure.
The funding source for the $600,000 is also, there's some money that the city of North Olmsted has access to for demolition that relates back to when we were doing the school teardowns. And we had multiple pots of money, one of which we were unable to use because you can't layer these things. You know, I can't get government money over here and then ask for reimbursement for the government money we spent. The lawyer and the accountant said you can't do that, so we stopped it. I was the lawyer, said don't do that. So we still have access to those funds. So there's some participation funds out there. It's not like we're digging in and coming up with 600 large. There's money available to help that
Thank you.
process.
Councilwoman Gilchrist, do you have something?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions. So the $600 is separate from the TIF money.
600,000?
Yeah, it's separate, right? And then if say you said it's for the building costs. So say in 10 years, the building costs are paid off. Then what happens?
What happens, great question. The way it works is the money comes in as they pay property taxes. So all the costs will be incurred up front, right? So they'll submit a cost certificate. And these numbers, I'm making these numbers up, right, just to make them easy. So they submit a cost certificate for $50 million. And let's say $1 million comes in every year. We would never hit the $50 million, so they would just transfer every year. If for some reason their cost numbers come in, the value goes really high and more money comes in, which I think is highly unlikely because the schools are getting all their money, right? So we're really only talking about the portion. So they'll probably have costs higher than that, but if we did pay back all their costs, the money would then just stay with the city and would be eligible for anything the city wanted to do for urban renewal or redevelopment. Usually you'd spend it on like public infrastructure in the area, but it'd be up to the city and it would be in a TIF fund and subject to appropriation by city council.
Okay. And so after 30 years, say it's still there, does this TIF 41, what happens to it?
Great question. It rolls off and they just pay their taxes and it goes to the county and goes to the taxing entities like there never was a TIF.
Councilwoman Gilchrist, we do have a TIF fund that has money in it right now too, right, Director?
Correct. We do, and the Great Northern TIF Fund, I believe it's at about 600,000 right now in the fund balance.
Yeah, I looked at earlier, like 680 something, around that number, but we have money in that TIF now.
So if this is in that same area, would it just go from TIF 41 back to TIF regular?
Sorry if I may.
Go ahead.
Yeah, great question. It is currently in that 40B TIF.
Right.
That's one of those steps of legislation where we have to take it out of the 40B TIF to put it in the 41 TIF because it can't be. Sorry on the acronym. It can't be in a 40B and a 41. It can't be in both of those TIFs at the same
And
time.
use of funds is different.
Exactly.
What you can, for
We're gonna
public
have
improvements
more
versus private.
Control of the fund in the new one to use on other things, other than this TIF that it is now, right?
Yes and no. Under a 41 TIF, you have broader uses, but according to this development agreement, the expectation is those funds would go back to the developer, so that's going to be used for that purpose. That's part of the structure. But you're correct, and generally speaking, a 41 TIF, funds can be used for urban redevelopment, and that's including more private options, like giving money to private developers to build and to incentivize projects.
Okay.
I'm not done yet, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So if we wanted to put it back in the regular 40B, is that it? Then we would have to bring it to council again after the 30 years is up.
Correct, but it wouldn't make any money because the way the 40B works is the base value is set when the TIF ordinance is passed. And then remember those base taxes go to all the entities that are already getting it, and you just do the value. So if you take it out of the 40B TIF and put it in the 41 TIF, we let the 30 years go. If we went to put it back in the 40B TIF, the value would be what the value is at that time, the base value. So there wouldn't be an increment, or there'd be a very small increment just due to inflation or an appreciation. That makes sense.
And
Positive.
can I add, I'm pretty sure the Great Northern TIF will probably be expired before this one, actually.
Correct.
So that-
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Unless you extend it, which that one you might be able to.
I'm so sorry. Has the mall, they have like their own group there, have they approved this project?
The reciprocal easement agreement, I think she's referring to. Do you know?
I do not know.
Because they
if
would have to have that issue resolved to stand ready to do this deal.
That is absolutely correct, and I do not know where that is.
So this could be a moot point if we do all this and the mall doesn't accept.
That's correct, and I
Perhaps
think,
for us, are you in a position to be able to inquire as to?
I can
that?
absolutely
Because one of the,
inquire,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, one of the issues too is that I had discussed with our director here was not only to, if they can gain authorization for that particular project, but perhaps everybody's at the table to talk about the next project, so we don't have to go through unanimous consent and you know, with people all over the world,
Exactly.
literally to try to do that. So maybe that you can determine that for us, and
Absolutely.
we can go forward with this thing. But if they're signing it, they're ready to go. And if they're not ready to go, then they're not signing it. We'll be ready to go if council wants to do that.
exactly.
That seems fair.
One last question. Sorry. Do you have something in like writing or something that this place is going to come in if we do this superstore, grocery store?
The couple of things. The agreement obligates them to make their best efforts. They don't receive any money from us until it happens. Like,
Okay.
they would have to get the occupancy permit before they get the $600,000 to reimburse for their demo. And they don't get any of the pilot payments or the TIF revenue unless it's up and running. So it doesn't obligate them because, to the law director's point, there's a lot of other factors, there's things they gotta work through. Their obligation is to work through those things. But if they're not successful, everyone just kind of goes back to their corner and we're done. They don't receive any of the funds until they've actually built it and been successful.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, at this time, I appreciate you giving us this rundown. I know we're running
Thank you
way
very
over
much.
time,
I'm happy to help.
but at this time, I'd like to make a recommendation, motion to recommend this to all of council and ask for a second.
Mr. Chair, I would like to hold this, if possible, until we get guidance on what's going on with the mall
I don't wanna
property.
hold this thing up if it's gonna take a lot of time. So, I mean, if we don't get the stuff that we need and they don't get a signed occupant, it's gonna be null and void anyways, so. I'd just like to get it out of committee and decide where we go from there. Mr. Lippert, and, so, I'd like to recommend it and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Nay.
Nay. Okay, that motion passes by a vote of 2-1. And the next item on the agenda is ordinance 2026-15, which is an ordinance approving a development and TIF reimbursement agreement in conjunction, in connection with the Holiday Inn project. Mr. Brennan, would that be?
That'll be our friend Russ again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this agreement does is this is for the renovation of a Holiday Inn hotel. There's certain demo work that needs to be done in the facility. This is already in a 40B TIF, I believe the Great Northern Mall TIF area. So it's already in a TIF district. It's a 40B, different than the other one we just discussed. And the idea here is the demolition costs this agreement would reimburse the demolition costs up to 50% of the lesser of 50% of their total demolition costs, or $225,000. I will note that the agreement says $350,000. That was incorrect, or the city negotiated it down a little further to $225,000. So what this agreement does is, from the TIF proceeds, it reimburses the developer for demolition costs. 40B TIFs can be used for demolition costs as long as they're connected to job creation, which this agreement would be. It's a little simpler than the last deal.
Okay. My first comment is, that thing's about ready to open. That demolition was done over a year ago when he first took this project in. And I'm not sure why that didn't come back then from our economic development department. I just don't see where we're trying to reimburse somebody that's already put, you know, all this in, and the demo's been done for over a year. I have a little bit of a problem with that. But can you explain why he's asking for it now, and they didn't ask for it when they first took this project over a year ago?
My understanding from conversations with the economic development director is it had to do with unexpected valuations of the building, that they had a capital stack that they expected to be able to do all of this within their budget, and then the building ended up getting appraised at a much higher level than what was expected. So the property taxes went up because it's in that TIF district. That means more money's coming into the TIF as a result of that higher valuation, and to try to get the number back to where about they think it would have been if the valuation had been closer to what they had expected. You need about $225,000, which is why it was the reimbursement would be for the lesser of 50% of the demolition costs, or $225,000.
But the way I feel is that valuation was done by the county, wasn't done by the city. In fact, every one of us sitting in this room got affected by the county and our taxes. And if you're gonna be an owner of a hotel and owner of other hotels in New York City and that, you have to expect those type of costs, I feel. So I just have a hard time with that one, but does anybody have anything from committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we see, like, I'd like to get a little bit more understanding of the numbers of this, of how this works. I mean, in high level, conceptually, I guess I understand it, but like, can we just get like, here's the TIF, here's the revenue we were expecting from the TIF, here's the added property cost, here, like, I don't know, you said 225, but like, I don't see what we're factoring in there, how we come up with that number and like why. So like, can we get some kind of like overview of that cost? Cause it's just, I don't feel comfortable just saying, oh, well, it was about 225, so we're gonna go.
Mr. Chairman, and that may not be a question best directed at Russ. It might be best directed at Mr. Director Upton to see how he scratched out the number in negotiating it. I think that's a question.
That's what I'm asking. I appreciate you.
No, I know.
Through the speaker to the director.
We attorneys tend to get the numbers handed to us, and then we go from there.
No, I totally understand that, and the finger was not pointed at you, but
Lawyers never do math.
that was
Not well.
that would be something, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to better understand.
Yeah, and I fully
Fair enough.
do recall talking to Director Upton about this about 9 months ago, 8 months ago, when the tax thing came out. And I think that's where it came from. Their taxes went up $225,000, and he's trying to recoup that. But I mean, that's the way it was told. So I believe that'll be the number that his taxes went up. But don't quote me on that. We can find that out. Anything else from council?
Yeah, I would like the demolition costs too. You know, not just like maybe 225,000. Like the
They should
total
know what
cost.
those numbers are, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
If the project is ready to open, they should have,
Should have all those
they should have the
numbers.
number,
Yeah.
not a.
They know what they need.
The last thing that they're doing now is the front entrance way and stuff, but pretty much the thing's 90% ready to go.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I'd kind of like to hold this in committee until we get some of that information. If that's
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to hold this in committee, ordinance 2026-15, until we get some of these numbers answered. We'll come back in
second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 3-0. Finance Committee concludes at 8 PM. I'm sorry it ran over 15 minutes.
Thank you to Russ, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you,
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
it.
Thanks so much.
The Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee meeting will come to order at 8 PM on February 24th, 2026. Present are Councilman Scarrow, Councilman Shimsky, Councilwoman Gilchrist, along with Councilman Limper, Councilwoman Carr, Councilman Mari, Councilman Madden. No, he's not here. The Recreation Director, the HR Director, the Chief of Staff, the Law Director, nope, the Finance Director, and guests. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss Ordinance 2026-13, Cultural Project Cooperative Use, and Ordinance 2026-18, amended Chapter 145.99, a parenthesis B, parenthesis, I can't say it.
Organization.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. It's not happening. It's this cold. I can't put it out. Let's start with Resolution 2026-13, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into cultural project cooperative use agreement with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission for the purpose of qualifying cultural projects for financial incentives offered by the state of Ohio. Director Pinchuk, would you like to speak of this?
Sure.
Yay.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Madam Chair. So, after conversing with our development director, who couldn't be here tonight, as well as Chief of Staff Byrne, I'm just gonna summarize it real quick for you. This is, it concerns Old Town Hall. The total project cost is $227,500, which requires a 50% match. So this ordinance that we're trying to pass tonight allows the city to collect a grant of $100,000, so, from the organization. So that's, in a nutshell, what this is. So we're passing this so we can collect $100,000 towards this project of $227,000 as part of our match.
Okay. Are there any thing about the grant that we should know? Like there's any?
I believe it's reimbursable, if I'm not mistaken. It's the Ohio Assembly HB2 grant, so this is with the state of Ohio. The project, like I said, is $227,500, and it's, if you look at your Exhibit A under number 3, under financial considerations 3.1, it details that the city will receive $100,000 from this for this project. This is recollection.
No, what I was kind of asking was like, are there any limitations to what we do per the grant? Like, is there certain things we can or cannot do?
I do not know the answer to that. That would be for our development director.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. You're doing the best you can. All right, any questions? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Director Pinchuk, for this grant, is there anything that's going to change with the name or anything moving with like Town Hall, that we get this money, that we, have to use something because of that?
But I can find that answer out for
I
you.
mean, cultural project, I don't know if
Yeah.
we gotta put a name on that Town Hall, if we can just keep it.
I don't think there is. I have not heard of that in any of our discussions.
No,
Pretty confident with that.
thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a due date that this has to be done by?
So,
Good guess.
they just gave me the Cliff Note version to talk about it. I'm assuming that there is.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah. Probably March. 16th, that seems to be what everybody's doing. I'm looking through the exhibit for you guys.
So am I. Is it March 12th, I think? March 12th. Okay. All right, so, you know, seeing the, nearness of, this and ability to, need to have it done. Any other questions? I will, and it is a grant, so, I would recommend ordinance 2026-18 to council and ask for a second.
Wait,
Oh, 13, sorry, 13, thank you,
Did he just
typo.
ask, Madam Chair, did he just ask for suspension, or
Can,
did you just ask for?
you, no, I don't think he
Oh,
asked
okay,
for
oh, okay,
suspension.
I'm sorry, because you were saying the 13th is when it was due, so I thought it was,
It's second read, it's not second
okay.
read.
It's on second.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe, they could get that information for us.
Yeah, I'll ask Mark.
I
Okay,
was
thank
just
you.
interrupting.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scarl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance 2026-18, an ordinance amending chapter 145, dot 99, parentheses B, parentheses of the administrative code entitled Organization of the Department of Recreation and Public Engagement in order to update the supervisor responsibilities of the Assistant Recreation Commissioner and further to add part-time safety town and concession staff and declaring an emergency. Director Pinchuk, would you like to speak of this one?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So
Okay,
this,
great.
this is, just a housekeeping item, basically. This is, as you recall, in 2025, at the beginning of the year, we filled the Recreation Commission Assistant position with Tim Campbell. And we left the other program supervisor position open. And so, at the time, the org chart, we didn't update it at that time. So we wanna make sure that his duties are reflected according to the org chart. So Exhibit B, you'll see that the Assistant Recreation Commissioner obviously falls under the Recreation Commissioner and also has the building maintenance responsibilities, park responsibilities, as well as concessions that we're adding at the park, in our Olmsted Community Park.
Yes.
So they will all report to him as well. Along with this change, we took over Safety Town program from the police department as well this year. And so, if you look down on Exhibit B under Sports Program Supervisor, you'll see Safety Town. We don't do karate anymore, so that's Safety Town basically just replaced karate in that organizational chart. So we just wanted to make sure that this org chart was reflective of the actual stuff that we have responsibilities dedicated to.
Okay, so we're not currently adding people to it, it's the same,
Just concessions.
just different, just
And
concessions.
we're swapping out Safety Town for karate,
Okay,
because we took over the Safety Town program.
Got
And
it.
karate doesn't even exist anymore, correct?
okay, perfect. Great. Any questions from committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
Director,
Councilman Scarl.
that Safety Town, I don't know how long did karate run, but Safety Town's only about, what, 6 weeks in the summer?
Safety Town's about 6 weeks. It's 2 classes, like, it could be 2 or 3 classes a week, like 2 in the morning, 1 in the evening.
So the person that took over for karate, he has other duties that he was doing before karate and all that?
Yes.
So we're just
Just swapping it.
swapping him out, that he'll run that Safety Town
Yeah.
for 6 weeks,
6 weeks.
plus do all his other duties.
Correct.
Is that part-time?
Yeah. The Safety Town, yeah, it's all.
No, I know that's part-time, but that person that's teaching,
The supervisor, like,
Yeah.
no, he's full-time.
full-time.
Yeah, he
But
oversees.
he does a bunch of
Oh,
other
yeah,
things.
oh, for sure. We're not adding that position, that already exists.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, we're just adding the
Thank you.
Safety Town program itself
thank you.
with the blessing
Mhm. Any other questions from committee? How about from council? No? Okay, great. Let the record reflect that the law director is here.
Sorry, I did have a question. I apologize.
Go ahead, Councilman Limpert.
Mr. Finance Director Radiff, can you outline I just wanna make sure that the cost for the budget, like, there's no difference with this org change from what you currently projected?
There shouldn't be, considering the projection would have included his supervisor already, and then the part-time stuff would be included in the part-time budget that we put into the salary, so it should be in there, and I can confirm with him tomorrow, or meeting tomorrow, but.
Well,
If I could just add to this, I mean, Safety Town, we did have to buy some equipment for obviously redoing the program, so, but that was just built into our programming expenses as well, so. So I mean, it's gonna be really cool with the pedal cars and the whole, you know, it's gonna be on the turf and all those things. We're gonna use the classroom that we're renovating in the back by the field house, so it's gonna be really nice. So.
Indoors?
Indoors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we have houses that'll be back there, little Pikes houses and stuff, and so the actual overlay of the turf will be covered by a big huge mat that has built-in streets on it, you know, so everything is gonna be self-contained right there. It's gonna be pretty cool. So, and they'll go visit police departments, they'll go visit the fire departments, you know, we'll have all that stuff, so police and fire will still be actively involved.
That's awesome.
Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
As a proud alum of the Safety Town program, I'm pleased to hear about these improvements.
Yes, very much so, yeah. There's stoplights, there's all kinds of stuff, so.
Is there age restriction?
I remember.
Yeah, can I go back?
Remember those pedal cars?
A reunion for
Reunion.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? No? Okay. Seeing no further questions, I would like to recommend, ordinance 2026-18 to council and ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scarl. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 3-0. And that concludes the Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee meeting at 8:13 p.m. Thank you.
I'll begin the Environmental Control Committee meeting at 8:13. Present are committee members Carr, Madden, and Scarl, along with Councilwoman Gilchrist, Councilman Murray, and Councilman Shinsky. Present also are the Law Director, Finance Director, HR Director, Recreation, and Chief of Staff. And tonight we will discuss Resolution 2026-17, resolution authorizing Director of Public Service to advertise for bids for leaf collection service as per the specifications on file. After approval of the Board of Control, further authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the lowest and best bidder.
Well, Mr. Chair, yes, I've got this one, members of the committee. This resolution permits the service director to go out for bids regarding leaf collection for the fall of 2026. He will review 1, 2, and no longer than 3-year contracts for the bidding process.
All right, we have no questions.
Of course.
I'll take one. Who have we used in the past handful of years?
3Z, I believe it is.
Mhm.
For a long time.
That's all I got. Thank you.
I knew that.
Okay, it's one.
All right, seeing nothing further, I'd like to recommend to all of council Resolution 2026-17 and ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Carr. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 2-0. And